So we literally came in here to record this podcast with the theme being all about love, being open to receive. This is the topic we are going to be covering inside the Elevated Life Club this month, and it just so happens that it's going to fall on Valentine's Day. We always do our live 90-minute training on the second Tuesday of the month, and it just so happens to be the day of love. So it seems just so ironic that that would happen, and we would sit down to record this podcast, and I'll be damned if I don't pull up the computer screen, and there's always a quote on the background of the screen. And the quote that pulls up is, "The walls we build around us to keep sadness out also keeps the joy out." This quote by Jim Rohn really hits the nail on the head, because just this morning, Chris and I were filming the yoga and meditation videos all about giving love and opening up the walls and breaking down the walls so that you can receive love. So I don't know what's going on in the universe, but it is certainly love inspired. So stick around for this episode, because we'll be sharing 10 relationship killers. Hey, we're Britt and Chris Carmichael, and you're listening to the Elevated Life Podcast. Throughout the 16 years we've been together, we've never ceased in our endless quest to better ourselves.
We've studied top experts, philosophers, and gurus. After years of personal self-experimentation and working with thousands of clients, we've found the tools for shifting your beliefs, moving through fears, and developing a positive mindset that aligns with your authenticity, integrity, and soul purpose, regardless of your past.
If you're ready for a breakthrough, then you're in the right place, because we're here to empower you to take control of your life with simple mindset shifts that create radical transformation.
We'll be diving into topics like personal growth, health, philosophy, spirituality, relationships, success, and mindfulness. We don't shy away from the taboo topics like sex, hypnosis, meditation, and exploring altered states of consciousness.
So create some space for yourself and get comfy. It's time to become the badass you were born to be. You know you can't avoid it. All the freaking Cupids and Valentine's Day hearts and sweet tarts and all the little things are just thrown in your face as soon as Christmas is over. It's like Christmas is over, and now the next most important thing is Valentine's Day. So when it comes to being February, you can't help but associate and correlate love and relationships to this month. Is it just me, or is it all the target programming?
You know, what I think is really cool to think about is that there's one look at it, the materialism side, right? We get marketed about Valentine's Day a lot. But one thing that I love about the season, or I love about the holidays, Christmas, Halloween, all of them, is that they sort of tune us into something. And I think there's never going to be a moment that's wrong to tune into love. There's never going to be that moment where you think, well, you know, love's not really a big deal right now.
It's not season.
Yeah, it's so good for us to start thinking about that, because it tunes us into where we really want to be. I mean, love is that one king emotion. When you feel that, you definitely feel like you can do anything. It puts you in the right state of mind, the right frame of mind to be able to accomplish or succeed at whatever you want to. Love feels so good.
Oh, I'll never forget one of our first dates. We were sitting in the truck, and I asked you, what is love to you? What does love mean to you? And you said, true love is investing in another's spiritual growth. And at the time, I had absolutely no idea what that really meant. Of course, I understand the words, but I didn't understand the depth of that space holding for witnessing someone else while they're going through some of the darkest times that they might be experiencing. That's not a time to abandon people. That's time to open your capacity to hold that space and love for them to grow through it.
It's really beautiful when you see a relationship that's worked out, that's been around for a while, because they've always got bruises. They've always got scrapes and scars and things and stories, and things have happened. I mean, there have been moments in their life where they're like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And they've had to rely on each other. anytime you're in a deep relationship for any kind of period of time, life's going to happen. And so being able to be with that person and weather that storm with them and know that there are going to be those tough times, but we got this, is a different perspective of being. And that's the kind of energy that we want to be in all the time.
So in today's episode, we're going to highlight 10 different ways that we tend to put a kibosh on our relationship, whether it's unconscious self-sabotage or just shitty bad habits sometimes, or just bad behavior or unhealed trauma. Some of these things show up in uncanny ways and patterns that we want to place the spotlight on so that you can make sure you're not doing this in your relationship.
So I'll tell you the first one that's super important, and I know that I did this one in the beginning. And that is failing to prioritize your partner. There's a certain level in dating that you get to where the person, when you end up swapping roles, you end up saying like, this person has this amount of importance, and as I get into the relationship more, their importance should grow. They should become so significant in your life so that once you've made it down the road a little while, you're thinking about them all the time. You feel that nudge toward them. You feel that pull toward them. You feel that love in between you. And in the beginning, I was so caught up in what I was doing in my career. I was thinking about how I was going to make money. How am I going to build something? I mean, we were young. It was like early 20s. And so I was really just into that spot where, okay, I'm done with school right now. I just want to be focused on what it is that I'm doing in business. And so I wasn't prioritizing us. I spent like literally a year or two thinking about like working. I just worked. I worked nonstop from the moment that I woke up before you until very late hours of the night. I mean, it was crazy.
And I can't believe you're about to be 41 next week.
Listen, it's been a while. Well, I've been here a minute.
Holy smokes. It's so true. I think, I felt like you were my number one. I was in beauty school, but all I could think about was like you. You were like on a pedestal, and it was work for you, where you had a priority and mine was different than what yours was.
Well, the second that there's a moment when I realized that our relationship was going to be something different, but I just had so much tunnel vision focus. I wanted to do a specific thing and met you after I'd already started doing that. So my wheels and that snowball had already started moving. And so I was putting so much effort and energy into that because that's what I'd already been building. But the second that I got done with work, I rushed to come see you. I mean, the second that I could talk to you or that we could spend time together, we could eat lunch together or anything where we can make it happen, we did. I would come to your work. I would come to your school. We just did it. But there's so much in that prioritization part. It's really thinking about your partner in a different way and thinking about what their needs are. In the beginning, I didn't know those needs yet. I didn't know on the internal level what it is that you were thinking or how you were like, how I was affecting you, what I was saying or what I was doing or not doing and what that meant to you.
That's so beautiful. And now it's so incredible how you come to every like bachelorette party or baby shower or things that you would think like only girls go to.
People expect me to be there.
People now expect you to be there because we spend so much time together. We always prioritize our time with each other. And that means I don't want to compromise it. So you're coming with me.
Well, I remember that when you got asked to speak at a big retreat that was out of town that you would have had to fly to and be a part of that, you
My
said,
weird ask was
and
you.
it's a women's only retreat. This is just ladies up there, doing what they need to do. And Britt said, I'll go, but Chris is coming. And so it's different. It's different.
So the next relationship killer is being cold and callous. I remember in the beginning of our relationship, Chris and I we're both air signs, so we're all about mental toughness. And I was trying to prove how tough I could be. If I don't respond to you, or if we're in a fight and I hold, silent the longest, then I'm obviously tougher than you. And I'll never forget giving you the silent treatment, being cold, being callous, being that like just standoffish. I remember hearing my internal voice say, but I just want to give him a hug. I love him so much. I wish he would just talk to me. And that's when I realized I'm playing games and I've got to stop.
When someone does that to you, it puts you in a weird place because on some level that they want love. But you also know that they are doing mind games at the time.
But they're being a little shit.
And you have to decide, am I going to let them get away with this? Am I going to? And for me back then, what was a big deal for me is that I took everything personally because I didn't understand yet that someone else's feelings could be because of them. I didn't have that awareness yet. I didn't know that if someone else was angry, maybe it's just they're angry. Maybe they're not angry at me. Like maybe certain things aren't my fault. Maybe I didn't do something or egg it on. It could be about literally anything that happened in the day. I had no idea about that. And so sometimes it was tough to distance myself in between what was happening and what was like really going on. Because when we don't have an awareness of our emotions, it's easy for us to lash out onto our partner, or for our partner to take it extremely personal and say, oh my gosh, what have I done wrong? And to stay in that state all the time and not feel like the relationship is working, even though it really might be. The other thing about being cold is that it's very confusing, because oftentimes in a relationship, the hard thing to do is to be vulnerable, is to start speaking how you feel and to tell other person, because a lot of times we're doubtful of ourselves. Our self-esteem might be a little shaky. Our self-worth might be a little shaky. And so opening up and being around a person is very tough. And when they shut down and are cold to you in a moment where you're vulnerable, sometimes it trains you not to speak out. Because especially if you start telling your truth and the other person just gets upset with you, a lot of times that will cause you to hush up. And that's not what you want. You get a lot of the blocked throat chakras. You hear a lot of people talking about that. You hear a lot of people unable to speak up. You find people with stutters. It's all that same kind of energy. Another thing that's really important, this would be number 3, that is unexpressed or unreasonable expectations. This to me is a huge deal killer, because it's so easy to get frustrated with another person when you hold them to a standard that you have not told them about. Like maybe you like it a specific way. For Britt, I know she likes getting gifts, but I didn't know that in the beginning. Nor did I understand that, because
I don't think you took me seriously.
I'd never been around a person who wanted gifts so bad. I could care less about gifts. Like it's not that big of a deal to me. But to Britt, it's like everything. Her picking out the gift, her receiving a gift, every little bitty piece of it matters. What the gift is in,
the bow color,
whether it's a bag, whether you've actually wrapped it, how much tape you use.
Did you use
the
no-show tape?
Yeah,
did you use no-show tape?
Listen, it's a whole game that I didn't even know existed. But so in the beginning, I wasn't playing the game because I didn't know about it. So she had an expectation of like, when Valentine's Day came along, I was going to give her something. When Christmas came along, I was going to give her something. We got together at the beginning of the Christmas season, that holiday season, early December. And so when Christmas came along, Britt got nada. When Valentine's came along, Britt got nada again. And not because I was trying to be a jerk. So when people aren't doing the things that you necessarily want or need, it's not always because they're trying to do it intentionally. Sometimes they don't know. I had no clue that was the deal. I had no clue that cards or flowers or any of that was important at all. No one had ever come out and told me that. I saw it in a movie, but to me, a movie in real life can be really different. And so it's so important to start expressing to your partner what it is that you like, that you enjoy, also what you don't like. I'll also tell you that it's extremely helpful if when you're being honest in that way to them, you don't do it as a jerk. So just instead of complaining about their behavior, offer them always a solution. You can't just say, you're bad at this, and then just sit there and stare at them. It needs to be like, hey, what do you think about us doing it this way? And offering some sort of solution. Don't make the other person come up with it. Like, say what it is that you really need. Come out and just like, hey, I need to have a little more fun time. I need to go out and have a little more fun on the weekends with you. Or I need a little more one-on-one attention. I need you to put your phone down. Let's spend some time. Let's go on some walks. Let's go do some fun stuff together. Let's grab a new hobby. Let's do something.
And that absolutely highlights the next relationship killer, and that's making assumptions. Assuming that your partner knows what you need without expressing it. There goes the expectations, right? So we assume that our partner knows exactly how we want to be loved, treated, the words we want to hear. We just assume that they came with the perfect manual of like how to be the perfect partner. But until you let people know exactly what it is that you want, you're just assuming that they're going to do that thing for you.
The other part that can be really tough about making assumptions is a lot of times we are placing a story that we are telling ourselves inside of our head and then putting it on top of what our partner's actual behavior is. A lot of times they may not mean it that way, or they may not intentionally be doing it that way. So you have to be super clear on your communication. We all know that communication is one of the huge secrets to relationships. And so you want to be doing is not always knowing exactly and assuming exactly what the other partner is thinking or doing or experiencing. You have to be asking questions non-stop so that you can start to understand this person. It is totally erroneous that men and women are alike. We are different in so many different ways. We approach sex different. We approach food different. We approach life differently. And so if you're not asking these questions, you are assuming the other person is like you, gets upset in the same way that you do about the same kinds of things. And so a lot of times the reactions can look like, what am I dealing with? Is this a crazy person? No, it's just that the other person has placed different amounts of meaning on different things. And so to understand them, you have to get into the moment where they're heated or where they're super excited or passionate about something, and you have to pause and you have to talk to them about it. You have to be able to put all of your feelings aside for a moment and have a real open and honest conversation so that you don't need to make assumptions anymore. You can find out what page that person's on so you can start talking to them where they're at right now.
Another assumption that can get you in trouble is assuming that what your current partner is doing now is something that your past partner used to do. For example, every time Chris used to pick up his phone and be just a little shady about like, hey, if I would be like, hey, what are you doing? And like, I'm just doing this. Like, I would automatically assume, well, he's obviously cheating on me. That leads to the next relationship killer, which is jealousy. So they go hand in hand. These assumptions sometimes can be a byproduct of a fear that you have of your partner not loving you or doing something or cheating on you because you've experienced that in the past. So, for example, if you're assuming that every time your partner picks up the phone or doesn't answer you when they're out, they must be cheating on you, sometimes leads to that root fear of not being lovable or whatever you experienced in a past painful relationship. That being said, the next deal killer or relationship killer is jealousy. It's constantly being jealous, not only of maybe your partner's success, but also of the traditional, are you cheating on me? I'm jealous of other women. It's not necessarily, or whatever the situation is, jealous of your partner being interested by somebody or something else. But the other part of that is sometimes people are jealous of their partner when they have success in business, or when the kid wants more time with the other partner. It comes up in many different ways.
This is such a broken way of thinking, and it's sad to watch people do this. I've seen a lot of relationships end because of this exact reason. Watching one partner, or even both partners, be jealous of each other. The whole idea is you're on a team. This is a team effort. We are doing team things. The team will succeed. Individually, yeah, we want to have good games. We want to have good opportunities. But as a team is what we're actually looking to do. So you're always trying to build the other person up. The jealousy thing can get so ugly because what is jealousy really saying? What is the real truth behind jealousy is that it's saying, if this person has something, now there's not enough for me. That's the only reason you'd ever be jealous. That if my partner can love somebody else, if they can care about somebody else, that means that I'm not lovable. No one will give me love. Nobody will care about loving me. If my partner over here is successful, now I can't be successful. I can't be successful now. There's not enough success out there in the world. Look, there is so much love and so much success out there. If you'll just open your arms, grab onto it, and hold it and bring it into you. It's really not that hard. But so often we let these emotions get us down, and then it puts us in the wrong state of mind again. We want to be in that receptive mode. The other thing that can be really huge is bitterness. This is a total relationship killer. If you've ever been around somebody that you enjoyed being around, think about somebody. Imagine in your mind real quick somebody that you love being around. Are they bitter? Is that one of those traits where you're like, man, I love being around those bitter people?
Be better, not bitter.
Be better. It's so important to be the person in your relationship who's exciting. Who is exciting to be around? Why would somebody want to be in a relationship with a Debbie Downer? With someone who's upset all the time? Someone who's bitter about every little bitty thing. Mad about how somebody dressed, mad about what they're doing in life, mad about this parking spot, just mad about everything. It goes back to that cold feeling again, because the bitter people end up turning off their feelings. And the second that you tighten the tap of love and you do not let it flow out of you, your partner knows. Whether you are doing the silent treatment, whether you are the withhold sex person, whether you are the passive aggressive, whether you're the person that slams the doors, whatever that part is, your partner knows immediately. And what does that mean that they're going to do? Do you feel like they're going to flood the room with love right after that? Like, man, if they'll be a jerk, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them more love and solve the problem. So a lot of times it's just handling these feelings and handling as they come up in the moment, because it's always tough to be aware when they come up. When you're mad enough to be jealous, When you're thinking about the other person with somebody else, that builds up feelings. That makes you feel a certain way.
And that leads us to our seventh relationship killer, which is angry outbursts and being highly volatile. This is a really scary experience for your partner if you aren't used to healthily expressing your emotions and you're someone who bottles them all up. And then eventually, once that thing cracks, everything comes out in rage or physical damage, if you will. For me personally, I used to break things when I would get so mad. It would just build up so much that I would punch something or I'd break a glass. And I recognized that I learned that pattern from my parent. But the truth is, I really didn't have any healthy tools to be able to express how I was feeling. And anger can get the best of us.
And the reason why it's such a terrible thing, besides that it doesn't solve a lot of problems and that you burn through the emotion very quickly, is that it makes the other person feel unsafe. I mean, anger is one of those emotions where you start to scare the other person. And that is definitely not one of the emotions or one of the feelings that you want to have come up thinking about your main love relationship. That's one of those things that easily turns the tides. The second that you have the other person living in fear, it's over. I mean, it's absolutely over. Which brings us to our next big relationship killer, and that's lack of respect. This is one of the biggest. You have to remember that if you are continuously building up the other person, you're giving them space. You're giving them the opportunity to thrive. You're giving them what it is that they need. The kind of physical love, the kind of intimacy, all those kinds of things. You're thinking about them in a certain way. When you talk to other people about them, you're speaking in a certain way. And all of those things have to do with respect. It's with honoring them where they are, honoring them with what they've achieved, what they've gone through. I see so many people do this a lot of times after women give birth. Sometimes there's like a lack of respect to what the woman's body goes through after childbirth because she just brought a being into the world, which is probably the coolest thing. So there's a moment where you have
Dippin' Dots are pretty sweet.
It's true that.
I'm just
ice
kidding.
cream of the future.
You know, not to minimize like childbirth and the miracle of human life or anything.
I think it's easy to get down on ourselves. And when you think about all these relationship things here, the important piece is, how's this showing up in your relationship to yourself? How is the lack of respect showing up for you? It shows up with how you eat. It shows up whether you sleep or not, whether you do your self-care, how you treat yourself with exercise. All those things show up. It's so important for us to think of our relationships in the same way that we think about the ones with ourselves, with other people. We want to be treating everybody the same way. We want to be putting a lot of effort into both because they're so nurturing and they're so giving to us.
And that totally piggybacks on the ninth relationship killer, and that's breaking trust. Once you've broken that level of respect, then you start to not be as impeccable with your word or with your integrity. You might find yourself lying or, I'm out with the guys tonight, or I just need this, but really you're just trying to get away from that person. And breaking that trust with someone really, that's it. You turn intimacy into just a regular type of relationship when there's no trust involved. And even in your platonic relationships and your friendships, trust is a major key foundational piece to having a sense of safety and a sense of actual connection with someone.
One of the things to think about is how much credence you'll give to the idea of radical honesty, of being able to tell your partner, of being able to come out and say things that you know are extremely important. The second that you start being dishonest, you start putting a big wedge, and it opens up the door for either one of you leaving. And, truthfully, it might be what should happen, because when you can't tell the person how you feel, when you can't be around the person, when you don't have that, the relationship starts to crumble. There's certainly ways to salvage it, but it's one of those huge pillars. When people can't talk to each other, when they break that communication, the relationship fails. Which brings us to the very last one, which I think for a lot of people is one of the hardest because we struggle to do it for ourselves. And that is lack of forgiveness. That is not ever allowing our partner to be something less than perfect. There are no perfect people. There's not someone who in your eyes will achieve perfection every single time.
Wait, what?
There are times, I'm sure, when I annoy BRIT. There are times probably when she annoys me. We all have those kinds of things. We don't line up the same way. We don't all think the same way. We don't have all the star signs or the sun signs the same way. We're different. It's that different part that makes it fun to be in a relationship. It's that different part that gives you the pizzazz that makes you start to change your life a little bit, because it's not the same way you've always lived. Being around another person can be so nurturing. It can be so happy. It can be so inviting. There's so much that can come out of it. But if you can't forgive them when they mess up, if you can't forgive yourself when they mess up, it won't ever happen. I don't care how hard you try. It is that level of saying, I love you anyways, that changes the relationship. If you say, I love you when, now we have a problem. If I love you when you do what I want you to do, I love you when you show up the way I want you to show up, I love you when you love me this certain way, that's conditional stuff. That doesn't make the person any more significant to you than anybody else. It's the unconditional love that we all crave, because it allows us to have the biggest spiritual growth. It allows us to manifest the best of ourselves with the other person staying there, watching us go through all the trials, watching us suffer sometimes, watching us come out and succeed, and being there and cheering us along the entire way.
And that's the beauty of partnership, is that it's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be all just ups. It's an up and down roller coaster journey. And all of these small, if you break them into individual little things, they're not necessarily one of these is a deal killer, is a relationship killer. But over time, compounded, if you break that trust, if you become cold and callous, and you have a lack of forgiveness, it kind of builds on this momentum of not working or supporting the growth of that relationship anymore. And there are some times where when these things can't be healed, they've come to the end of their rope. You have to know that letting go of relationships that no longer serve your growth is the most beautiful and healthy thing you can do. I find that women hold on to relationships far beyond their expiration date of growth and support, out of fear of not finding it in the next one. But the truth is, there's another lesson for you to learn. Once you've healed maybe that bitterness that you've experienced in relationships, then you move to that next level of growth and intimacy and connection, and you'll attract to you that perfect partner that complements where you're at on your journey.
It's super important for you to be able to open yourself up enough for experiences to come in, for you to let light shine through, for you to feel good on the inside. All this is about love. So despite the fact that we talked about all the failures in it, there's so many great things about it too. There's so many things that we're going to be talking about this month on The Elevated Life. I love this season, because this is a season that really turns you into a champion. Because if you're not spending your time focused on love, focused on your love relationships, the opportunities that come from that, the happiness that comes from that, you're missing a huge key part of your life. And we know that the biggest person that we need to start to love is ourselves. It's very important for this year, for this to be top of the mind. Last month, we talked all about money. We talked about our relationships with money, how we thought about that, what we thought about our rich lives, how we brought more joy to our lives. That's love. Love is that emotion that we want to all experience the most. If you can think of one thing that you want to experience, you think that you're at the end of your life. This is the last moment. What did you experience? You'd be concerned about love. You'd be concerned about, did I feel like I really loved? It was a loving experience. And that's when life starts to really be something new.
So if you need help breaking down those walls to let love and new opportunities into your life, join us inside the Elevated Life Club, our monthly group coaching program where we teach simple mindset shifts to create radical transformation. To sign up for this magical membership, all you have to do is go to theelevatedlifeclub.com and sign up for our 2-week trial for only $7. That way you access the club, our live group coaching that goes down the second Tuesday of every month, plus you'll access over 60 masterclasses that we've taught along the way, including yoga and meditation.
So let this be the year that you let love in. Let this be the moment where you decide love is the most important thing, and whatever it takes to get there, you're willing to do.
You don't have to do this alone, so come join us in the club. Sign up at theelevatedlifeclub.com. And until then, we'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the Elevated Life podcast. If you loved this episode, please share that love by leaving us a 5-star review and spreading the good vibes on social. You can tag us at the Elevated Life Club. Want more wisdom from us? Become an elevator by joining us inside our monthly membership club at theelevatedlifeclub.com to discover mindset upgrades, lifestyle hacks, and spiritual tools to elevate your soul.
Each month features a live group coaching masterclass, guided meditations, yoga practice, and more to help you transform your life one step at a time.
It has all the tools, coaching, and community you need to level up, progress every month, and keep going in every area of your life consistently over the long term.
Join us in the club and start your transformation today by signing up at theelevatedlifeclub.com.